Okay, and here we've hit the start of the fifth turn, I guess, of Age of Renaissance. And this is actually where the game starts to fall apart for me. It's just everything's getting too complicated. There's too many things happening each turn. I showed a little bit last turn about this, not on the board, but with the purchases. This is something I never felt quite as bad in, say, Civilization. But a lot of games do kind of get to this point. Even 18XX for me gets to this point where there's just too much going on at some point in the game. You're making too many rail decisions. There's too many stocks up for playing with. There's just too much stuff there. Well, here it's one of the worst games for this. And some of the other Euros that I've seen, well, not that this is a Euro, but some of the Euros that I've seen have the same kind of painful escalation of the amount of choices that you have or the amount of effort you have to put in as the game goes on. And in this case, it's the purchasing phase that's especially difficult, but it affects everything else because every decision you're making has to be weighed in terms of will I be able to buy the things I really need? And then there's how many other things will I get? Early in the game, you can kind of, it's fairly easy to judge, I need this one thing, caravans. A little bit later, you start buying by opportunities. But at this point, there's usually something you absolutely need. Holy Indulgences on this turn is going to be that something. And everybody had to count for that. Everyone has Urban Ascendancy, so they all have this option to pay $10 for a card, except for Paris. And everyone took it out of those five, except for Barcelona. But Barcelona's cutting it a little short. They don't have the cash. They have some extra cards. They don't want to get caught behind. But in general, it's a good idea to grab that extra card. Cards are power in terms of being able to make decisions. Anyway, we're going to get to that playing of cards right away, and we'll see where that puts us. So let's look at what the card play was. Venice played nothing? No, they didn't play nothing, but they held these two. Not sure why they held a timber so terribly, except they're not too far from being able to grab another one maybe, so I don't know what they're thinking. They probably should have played that. It's not going to do them a lot of good. The spice they want to grow towards, but they had the cash on hand to handle it, so they figured they'd hold it, I guess. I don't know. What they did play, though, was Erasmus, which will help them get printed word, and no one else will get it. They're probably not going to get the bonus for Renaissance, which is kind of a bone. It's nice to get both things off a card, but it's hard to get both of them off that card. That card usually goes for one or the other. What you can get is the bonus off printed word for having it. So you get $20 in cash and then pay towards Renaissance. But it came out early enough that we wanted to go for the printed word instead. Over to Hamburg. Hamburg played the cloth stone card for cloth, not to their best advantage, but they don't, or cloth wine, they don't see an opportunity to improve there. Even though this was their last card and their only commodity, they just do not feel like that's where they want to expand and work towards, and they have a couple of cloth that they thought they'd take the cash from it. They also played Gutenberg, who gives 30 off printed word, and covered him with a $10 cover. We'll see if anyone, it's very likely, wants to pay that to get that bonus. I think that they're going to make that up easily. Probably a couple players will, but a couple players already have printed word. Genoa and Paris. So sometimes putting a cover on, I mean, you want it there, but sometimes putting a cover on is kind of a way of keeping people from even, one or two people who have the chance to get it left from even getting anything. I think this one's going to generate some money, though. Over on Genoa, he played the Enlightened Ruler, in part because of his other play, it's kind of late in the turn to play Enlightened Ruler. There aren't a lot of other people to go, but 3 of them. And it does give some protection and gets the card out of his hand. But he played Pirates and Vikings. He played it on London. London's been pretty obvious that they're interested in spice, and he hit both their 2 of their 3 spices, delaying London once again here. Now going on to London, you expect some kind of retribution, but they don't have much. They played a couple of payout cards, Stone and Grain, that weren't really terribly good for them. Were good for Hamburg, of all people. But again, I don't want to hold these cards. It's one of the bonuses of the low value cards, having a collection in those, having the supremacy in those, is people may just play them and you'll get your 15 or 30 bucks and nobody's too terribly worried about it. I also played the Mongol armies, which gave them 10 bucks. Gives a bonus to Marco Polo from now on. But one of the worst things about it is it makes Crusades unplayable. Well, the next player, Paris, had Crusade. If they had been going before the London with their Mongols, they could have done a Crusade and landed over in Area 6. They also have their wool cards that they still didn't want to play. They built some tokens. They're planning on trying to take some more wool. It's going to be a tough fight, though. And then over to Barcelona, who played, again, a couple commodities that they can't really get too interested in. Stone and fur. Fur is going to be tough for Barcelona to get any real quantity of. So they just fired that off, even though it's slightly more valuable. A lot of these I can just put away. Now I'm going to go to the purchase phase and try to figure out who wants to buy what. And in some cases they have enough money that they can buy a whole pile of things. And that is not a pleasant it's not a pleasant part of the game for me. Alright. Finished the first couple of players' purchases, and Venice is one of the guys way ahead, right, or in the good position here. And he picked up Holy Indulgences. Pretty much has to. He's in the first position. If he doesn't do it, everyone else might do it, and then he'll be really boned for the next turn until he buys it. Holy Indulgences, the printed word, there were so many bonuses on paying 10 bucks to Hamburg. The human body and seaworthy vessels. And that was enough to get a misery reduction, paying off the increase from the Holy Indulgences. But then we went to Hamburg, and Hamburg did almost the same thing except no human body. And the big difference here is the money that people are going to pay Hamburg didn't go into his pocket. So he's going to have a wad of money for next turn from this. But he just broke even from putting that 10 bucks because Venice paid him. And we can get rid of Erasmus because he's used. Alright, well, on to the others. So after the purchases, almost everybody followed the same pattern who could, which was the Holy Indulgences, printed word, and grabbed the seaworthy vessels. Unfortunately, there were some people who didn't have, and Hamburg actually didn't get much. They only got 10 bucks more. I was expecting that people had enough money to buy both Indulgences and printed word, but a few people didn't. Paris didn't have the money to buy anything. They had 10 bucks in their hand. Nobody played cards that gave them additional money. They're going to be boned by the Holy Indulgences. They're going to lose 2 counters to every other player. They're just not going to be able to do the expansion they were hoping for, even. Over here, Barcelona was able to buy the Holy Indulgences, but nothing else. They were left with only a few bucks left, and it wasn't enough to pick anything else up. So, really, what we're seeing is the people with the seaworthy vessels are all the ones who have pulled ahead a little bit. Sometimes it was worthwhile to go with, to take the seaworthy vessels and then push them forward to right away to the ocean navigation, where you can get, access to these kind of virgin territories ahead of everyone else. Here it was hard because of the holy indulgences being the sine qua non on this turn. And once you get beyond, there was another option that nobody took. Venice might have been interested in it, but they had no boats at all, and this seemed like a necessity to them. I don't think anyone else was in the position. Yeah, Venice was the only one in the position to buy interest in profit. Jumping to that level is sometimes worth ignoring getting the ocean transport. They may have the cash to do it next turn in addition to ocean navigation, which would be a powerful bonus. Of course, then they won't have the cash in their pocket to make use of interest in profit, but they probably wouldn't have this turn either. All right, well, let's go on to the purchases and see what comes up. Let me change that to the play of the counters, the actual play phase. Now, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That's the effect on Paris. And everyone else gets a couple of these. Just a couple extra tokens. A little bit more expansion opportunity. Doesn't affect the bid order or anything like that. Paris has so much less, and everyone else has gained a little bit. Painful, painful occurrence. Alright, I'll start playing the pieces for expansion. Venice was exceptionally dicky. They went first. They couldn't find, with 5 counters, they couldn't find much they wanted to do. They had put 3 in to buy a card, so they spent the 3 to buy a card and used the other 2 to put into the spice markets that London wants. Now, the thing is, Venice wants them too. They just don't have the power to contest at this point. But they're going to force London to roll dice to try to get them. And here we're at the end of the expansion phase. Barcelona, not only did they get picked on, but by going last with hordes and hordes of pieces, but no bonuses for it, they proved why this is so bad. It's great if you have some place to expand into that's empty. But when you're fighting, well, they spent every single piece they had trying to take first Durazzo, and then once they used up their shipping capacity there, which was in 2 tries, Salonika directly. They got nothing. And, you have to... That's particularly horrible. The green die could not possibly win for them. But the black die beating the white die, you would think would happen in the many, many rolls that happened. All the pieces dead, no gain at all. And what was that? That was 20 pieces Barcelona had. No gain. Painful. Okay, let's see who gets the bonus. Genoa's got a couple. Hamburg's got a couple. Oh, this another Hamburg one? Yeah, it looks to me like Hamburg's going to win it with 3, because Genoa's only got 2. So they will get the extra card. Ooh, they get Columbus. And as a follow-up, London set themselves up. They managed to get Alexandria back, but they set themselves up to buy to get themselves a better shot at getting Acre. Whether or not they're actually going to go there, I'm not sure. They may just play the card. This is getting painful. If they get another card to chase, playing this one might be the most worthwhile endeavor they can take. But I guess we'll fix the commodity log and grab the income, and then roll for surplus and shortage. Ended up with a couple of surpluses, metal, which probably doesn't affect many people, and silk, which, well, London had to pay $10. Bids were put in, and Paris got the low bid this time with a 3. They're hoping to get the Holy Indulgences so they can buy a card with their 3 counters. If they can't, well, they're hoping they don't miss by $3 or less. The next ones, everyone except London picked a 10. London's going to be in last place with a big 14. Remember the race to the bottom? All right, but the 10s, why are 10s so interesting? Well, 10s were interesting for a multitude of reasons, but some of the players wanted them to grab the 2 ocean navigation, and that's kind of a regular thing. Somebody was trying to consider, do I want to go 10? Do I want to go 8? 5 in a card? But 10 won out in every case there. So now we have to look at the order here, and Hamburg is going to get the first of those 10s, and they're kind of bonused by doing that. Genoa goes next. Getting the second of those 10s isn't too bad. You'll still get 1, which is what you would have gotten if you bid less than 10. But then our next 2, and most importantly Venice, because they're the ones who are counting on getting it, don't look like they're going to get there. And they could attack with the 10 and hit an area, but that's an expensive attack late in the turn. All right, I think we're done, and this one can go up.